Game Freak, a Japanese company most famous for creating a video game where you put monsters in your pockets, has had a major data leak. And a lot of people are having a lot of fun reading through it, as there's a heck of a lot of details there relating to Pokemon, and even Switch 2 details, etc. But, well, I've never been that big of a Nintendo fan, and the only Pokemon game I ever played was Arena, and that Pokemon game where you take candid photos of the Pokemon in their natural environment. That's about it. So, I don't care about that. What I do care about, however, is the Pokephilia. And there's a lot of it. As I do consider myself to be quite the expert in terms of degeneracy, although I must admit, certain things that have come out of these leaks makes me question my mastery, as there are things in here that only a woman could ever be turned on by, which we'll get to in a little bit later. So, let's enjoy a couple of pieces of literature, shall we? In the distant past, when the boundary between Pokemon and human was still blurred, there was a woman and her companions. Every day they were bored, so they'd often catch Slakoth living in the nearby forest. Slakoths incidentally look something like this, just so we have a a mental image of what we're talking about here. Every day they were bored, second thing about forest. They played cruel games with the captured Slakoth, sometimes killing them for fun, gouging out their eyes, or cutting off their ears. Okie dokie then. Right, I didn't even know this thing had ears. We're starting out rather spicy. One day, the woman was walking alone in the forest and saw a Slakoth hanging from a tree. She climbed the tree to catch it, but slipped and injured herself. At that moment, a Vigoroth appeared. They look like this. That's a Vigoroth. Oh boy. The Vigoroth had a torn ear. The woman, startled, tried to flee, but her injured leg hurt too much and she couldn't move. The Vigoroth with the torn ear suddenly attacked her when it saw her. The woman lost consciousness. When she awoke, she was in an unfamiliar place. Before her lay a clear lake surrounded by trees, from which many Slakoth and Vigoroth were hanging. All the Pokemon bore wounds somewhere on their bodies, marks left by the woman and her companions. Upon closer inspection, she noticed that some of the Slakoth hanging from the trees were corpses. Oh boy. They were the very Slakoth that the woman and her friends had killed and discarded. The Slakoth were throwing those corpses into the lake. Terrified, the woman tried to run away, but a Slaking appeared. This Slaking also had a torn ear. The woman realized that this was the same Vigoroth she had seen earlier, and fear overwhelmed her, causing her to faint once more. Okie dokie then. So the woman has been dragged off into the forest to witness a barbaric burial ritual, including a lake and a bunch of corpses hanging from trees. Alright, already we're off to a fairly spicy start, but we haven't even gotten to the really interesting part yet. When the woman regained consciousness, she found herself at the entrance of the forest. Near her home, surrounded by her friends, they carried her back to her house. Oh good, a happy ending. Sometime later, the woman gave birth to a child, but it wasn't a human child, it was a Slakoth. A pagan gang rape ritual in Pokemon. Oh boy. Okie dokie then. So the Vigoroth captured her, as they said, attacked her, beat her unconscious, dragged her home to their magic pond, had its way with her, and then threw her back out of the house again to be cared for by her family. She intended to abandon it, but couldn't bring herself to do so. She stopped meeting with her friends and decided to raise the Slakoth. A bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out. One day, her friends, concerned about her, visited the area near her home. These were the same friends that had fun torturing Slakoths to death whenever they were bored, incidentally. They found the Slakoth sleeping there, the child of the woman. As they always did, they caught the Slakoth, stabbed it in the chest, and killed it. They took its corpse and headed to the woman's house. Oh, Jesus. Hey, we happened to find this Slakoth near your house. So, we stabbed it to death and tortured it as we usually do. Would you like to look at the corpse? When she saw the slain Slakoth, the woman was overwhelmed with sorrow. She grabbed the Slakoth's body and ran deep into the forest. Her friends, shocked, chased after her. Hey, what's wrong with you? It's just a Slakoth. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the surroundings suddenly opened up, and they found the same clear lake from before. Around the lake were many Slakoths and Vigoroths. The woman stood before the lake, and holding the lifeless body of her raped child, she threw herself into the water. Afterwards, the woman's friends began to treat the Slakoths as companions, just as she had in her final moments. So it ends with a suicide. And the humans, now looking at the clear blue lake and all the Slakoths and Vigoroths around it and thinking to themselves, yeah, let's not stab them. Let's adopt them as companions. Just like the woman did. Oh boy. I wonder what the percentage... I wonder like what is the mix of semen to water ratio in this lake at this point, one wonders. Okie dokie then, that, Right. Well, there we go. That was part of the data leaks. It's an interesting, little story. I don't know quite exactly. See, I'm not a Pokemon expert. I do know that a lot of people have wanted to, you know, the Pokemon for quite some time. I've always been mildly confused by this, but hey, to each their own, etc. But this is another level entirely. Is this in thread with Pokemon lore? Is there a lot of stories like this? And yes, incidentally, Yu Nakatsui. This was all written by apparently a woman who does indeed appear to be working at Game Freak on various Pokemon projects. All of this shit was written by a woman. There's a lot of it. A whole heck of a lot of it. And, it gets worse. How, you might ask? Well, that's a very good question. Allow me to answer it. Long ago, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans were unclear, I can already imagine the facial expression on the person writing this, just vigorously typing away at the keyboard, one-handedly, one imagines. There was a village somewhere. One day, a girl from that village... now, to be fair here, the Japanese word for girl is not necessarily one-to-one with the English word for girl, so the age is theoretically not, you know, necessarily girl here. I say that because, well, this story is going to take a sexual turn as well. Into the mountains to get the firewood. She found well-dried deadwood deep in the forest, so she kept going further in. Before she realized it, the sun was setting and she had lost her way. Around her, there were droppings from a Typhlosion. So the Typhlosion looks something like this. This is now... no, you know what? I'm not going to spoil the ending for you. Which made the girl anxious. Just then, a man appeared from the other side of the forest. His face didn't resemble anyone from the village, but he was very handsome, the man said. You must be lost, right? I know the way down the mountain, but with your pace, it would be midnight before we get there. I'll take you back tomorrow morning, so why don't you rest at my place tonight, girl? The girl had no choice but to agree to the man's suggestion. Okay. So far, you know, that could be entirely innocent. A man comes across a young girl in the forest and decides to help her. This doesn't need to go anywhere bad. The man took her hand and began to walk. As evening fell, they arrived at a large cave. This is my home. You must be hungry, right? Wait here. Saying that, the man went outside the cave. After he left, a red light shone from far away in the mountain, and there was a sound of trees swaying. Before long, the man returned carrying many red berries. He said, "Eat this, then let's sleep for the night. Even if you wake up before I do, don't look in my face." The next morning, when the girl woke up, the man was still asleep. She honored their promise and stayed lying down, waiting. Before long, she fell back asleep. She was awakened by the man's voice. When she looked outside, the sun was already setting. The berries made her sleep the entire night and the entire day. Again, could have been an innocent mistake. Today we'll eat green berries. Wait here. With that, he went out of the cave. After he left, the same red light shone from far away, and the sound of trees swaying echoed once more. By the time the sun had set completely, the man returned carrying many green berries. He said, "Eat this, then let's sleep for tonight. Even if we wake up before I do, don't look at my face." The girls expressed her concern that her family would be worried, and that she wanted to go home. "Please, mister, could I leave? Please, may I go home, sir?" The man yawned widely and tapped her on the head. At that moment, she completely forgot about her family and home. The two of them ate green berries together and then fell asleep. Less innocent. Less innocent now. The man is drugging her and using brain tricks on her. Significantly less innocent now. The same routine continued, with them waking up when the sun had set, the man going out to gather berries, and the two of them eating and sleeping together. Eventually, the girlie realized that the man was a Typhlosion. This thing, again. She must have had remarkably poor eyesight. As winter approached, oh boy, the Typhlosion dug deeper into the cave and said to the girl, "Go and gather wood for firewood. Break off the branches from the higher parts of tall trees." The girl tried to do as the Typhlosion instructed, but the tall trees scared her, so she could only climb the shorter ones. When she brought back some branches, the Typhlosion said, "That won't do. If it's not from higher branches, humans will find us." Humans. More of them? When the snow began to fall, the two of them lived in the depths of the cave, mostly sleeping. There was plenty of food, mostly sleeping. Occasionally, they would wake up, eat, and then go back to sleep. One day, when she awoke, the girl was holding a child. Mostly eating and sleeping. Oh god, okay. Again, I reiterate that the Japanese word for girl does not necessarily translate into quite the same word in English. Just for a slight benefit of the doubt here. It's, a little bit. After several days tonight passed, the Typhlosion said, "Your father is looking for you, but you are my wife, so I can't return you. I will have to fight him." "I am sorry, child. I have kidnapped you. I have impregnated you. You're mine now. I'm gonna have to kill your dad." Oh boy. Okay, right. This story is not escalating. This story, we are far beyond the escalator. We have shot out through the top of the skyscraper quite some time ago. We are currently heading towards a stable orbit around the nearest celestial body. The girl pleaded, "Please don't do that. Don't kill my father. How can I live without you if you kill my family? You are a good person, so please stay here with me and sleep." "Alright, let's stay here and sleep," the man nodded. The next night, the Typhlosia woke the girl and said, "Your father is close by, go and see." When the girl went outside, a snowstorm was raging. She climbed a low tree and broke off a branch. When she returned to the cave, the Typhlosion was singing a song she had never heard before. "You broke off a branch, didn't you? Soon your father will come here. I am going to do something bad to your father. If I am killed, take my eyes, my voice, and my heart. Build a fire at the spot where I was killed and burn them. And while they burn, sing this song until the fire goes out." Okie dokie then. The girl said, "Please don't do it. Don't kill my father. If anyone is to be killed, let it be you. Goodbye. We will never meet again." With those words, the Typhlosion went outside. After a while, there was a loud noise, and when the girl looked outside, she saw her father had killed the Typhlosion. She rushed out and said to her father, "Father, you have killed my husband." Oh boy, the Stockholm Syndrome has set in full force, hasn't it? "I have been living with him all this time. He was my husband. Please give my husband the Typhlosion's eyes, voice, and heart." "Dad, you killed my husband. Please, I need you to carve him open and give me his tongue, his heart, and his eyes." "Why, daughter? Why?" so may I may burn them while singing a pagan hymn. Arguing no further, the father elects to do as the daughter demands. The girl built a fire at the place where the Typhlosion had been killed and put his eyes, voice, and heart into the flame. She sang the song the Typhlosion taught her until the fire burned out. The girl's father built a small hut on the edge of the village for the girl and her child to live in. Because, you know, he had a hard time explaining why she'd been gone so long to the other villagers, no doubt. Eventually, spring arrived. The young men of the village often teased and tormented the girl and her child. It became worse over time, and one day they tried to drape a Typhlosion's pelt over them. Hey there! I heard you like to, sleep with Typhlosions. I've got a recently skinned pelt of one here. Wouldn't it be funny if I, draped it over you? These humans are really fucked up. Good God. Again, I reiterate, I consider myself to be a fairly well-learned individual when it comes to degeneracy, but holy shit. This is this is a black belt level. I am but a poor humble white belt in these disciplines, it turns out. The girl returned home and pleaded with her parents, please tell the villagers to stop draping the bloodied pelt of my husband over me. It's hurting my feelings. Fair enough. Despite the parents' pleas, the villagers did not listen. In fact, they found it even more amusing and eventually draped the Typhlosion pelt over the girl and her child. At that moment, they howled loudly and vanished into the depths of the forest. The two were never seen again. And so people came to understand Typhlosions are half-human beings. That's got some implications, doesn't it? So, what you're saying there is, a Typhlosion and a Slakoth as well, a lot of Pokemon, apparently, are capable of interbreeding with humans, some of which will produce human children. In the case of the Typhlosion, he slept with our girl in question and produced a human child. Okay? Whereas our previous example decided to, well, not decided to, was actually violently raped by a Vigoroth near a lake. And she produces a Slakoth child. Right, This has some worrying implications, one of which is the idea that not only can human women be interbred with Pokemon, which is interesting in and of itself, as that would suggest that they are genetically engineered somehow to be impregnated by various animals. Oh boy, but also that at least some of the animals either have the ability to create human children with them, with yet further unfortunate implications, or are capable of, overriding their DNA to the point where a human woman can produce an animal offspring. Unless the Slakoth's cum has some really seriously DNA overriding qualities, that would mean that the women already had the genetical makeup required to produce a child that looks like this. Oh boy. Oh boy indeed. Alright, this is gonna do some interesting things to Pokemon lore. And some other interesting things to Pokemon fanon, I'm sure. Expect to see quite a lot more aggressive fan art of this coming out of the Pokemon community in the relatively near future, as it is now officially canon on Nintendo's and, Game Freak's part, I guess, that human women are remarkably adoptable to Pokemon. Sleeps in this world. I hope Yu Nakatsui understands what she's done with this, and the amount of horrors that will now be unleashed upon the world, which, by my estimate, is beyond reckoning and beyond imagination. And as usual, we have a woman to thank for all this. As I've said previously on stream, never underestimate the degeneracy of your average female. It can be quite something beyond your expectations, and usually will make you question your sanity, as this did. Oh well, that's Pokemon for you. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.